Good afternoon. Today, obviously, the last talk. I'm glad that you've all stayed with me. My name is Shania Robba, and obviously today, as you can see, I'm going to speak about the local and global rise of women's football. So to begin, who am I, and obviously why am I giving this talk? I started playing football when I was 5 years old, and at the time, obviously, there wasn't enough girls to have a team going, so I ended up starting to play with a boys' team, which that in itself can seem to be a put-off for other girls, and that's why throughout the whole years that there's not enough girls playing at my age right now. But obviously I ended up finding a really nice and good team that treated me as one of their own, if I'm honest. But obviously I did experience some challenges. Not necessarily with my team, but when I was around other boys and around other teams, I would hear the comments like, why are you here? You're a girl. But at that time, to be honest, it did not faze me, and I just continued and I carried on. And this is obviously something that's actually part of my story. Following from that, because there's not enough girls players, I had to enter the Women's League as from 12 years old only. My mom had to actually sign a document to make me eligible to play. But I was small in stature. I was like quite skinny, and I was playing with really kind of big women, and I had to use my strengths to my advantage. So that's when I started learning how to actually use the ball at pace, started to use my speed and my skills. And then now, if you look at how I am now, with the body I have, is obviously a bit bigger, I hope. I've used what I've learned when I was that small girl playing in the Women's League to now, after all my success, I've learned how to overcome all these things, and now my game is definitely improved because of it. So looking at the current state now globally of women's football, there's a lot of discrepancies still from the women's game to the men's game. Coventry United have been the latest championship club of the Women's League who have gone into voluntary liquidation, so 21 of their players have had their contracts terminated. You wouldn't see this in the men's game in championship level because they all have the money to carry on and invest into the football, whereas for the women's championship, you can see that this is not the case. It is worrying to know that you're invested in something, this is your job that you do every day, and all of a sudden it's taken away from you, which shows that, there are challenges, but me, myself, this is not something that is going to stop me necessarily from going towards this. On the other side, though, there's actually some positives coming the way of women's football. Barcelona women's team have actually become the first ever to sell out Camp Nou this season because the men have not been able to do that. So they sold out all of Camp Nou for the semi-final of the Champions League, and the men have yet to do that this season, so it shows that demand is going up, and I can guarantee that in a few more years it's just going to keep rising, and I can't wait to be in that environment when I'm older. So looking at it more on a local perspective, in my opinion, the start of the rise of women's football here actually came from futsal rather than football. For those of you that don't know, futsal is actually an indoor version where there's a small amount of people. There's only 5 playing in the court for your own team. So it's a completely different sport in my opinion, but actually the people that play futsal are mostly part of the football squad as well, which is kind of unique. But if you look at this specific success, we had a match against Belgium, and we tied 3-3, and I actually managed to score 2 goals, which I'm proud of. It was just memorable to have, all the success and then all the media and demand that came from that. For me, the most important thing was looking up in the stand and seeing kind of the girls that I had coached throughout the time before that, watching me and cheering me, and to actually be a role model for other people that I didn't have when I was younger. That's all I could ever ask for. And for me, this has been one of the highlights of this year for sure. But this was a start. If we then carry on, the women's team then got their chance in the next month, because this was in June, I think. And then the first bit of history came from myself, where I was able to score the first ever UEFA goal for Gibraltar football in the UEFA stage. And putting my name in the history books is obviously good, but we want to keep on carrying on rising. But to know that I have my name on the start alongside this group who actually got the first ever international win on home soil, to know that football is always going to be developing, and especially women's football, as you've seen how the demand is keeping on rising. But to know that I have my name in the history books and to be the pioneer who started this is something that no one's going to take away from me, and it's something that I'm proud to have achieved. When you look at success in the past year, the big question is, why now? My first reason is the team. Alongside more opportunities, it means that our goal as a collective unit rises as well. We're all striving towards the goal and we're doing whatever we need to achieve this goal. So that's something for me that has contributed to this success. And because of this shared goal and this collective identity of representing Gibraltar, it's something that makes us work together and help each other out on match day especially. Secondly, we've recently been introduced to GPS stats. So obviously distance covered, speed, distance per minute, accels, decels, and the list goes on. But initially, in the first match against Liechtenstein, we actually had myself and another player who reached 10 kilometers in a match. But if you look at the moment we made history here on the Rock, I think there was only 2 players that didn't manage to reach the 10K mark. So it just shows how we all work together as a unit. And these stats actually provide an incentive to work harder if you think about it, because you're being monitored now. So now maybe the pass, the through ball that you think, oh, she's literally throwing it like 10 meters in front of me. Now you end up reaching it and you're going to think, oh, now I actually can get to it now. So you end up running further and you never know what chances can come from the GPS stats. A new factor, I think, these past 2 years, which includes myself, is playing abroad. 6 out of the 11 girls that made that historic win were actually playing abroad at the time. I think that I don't obviously encourage saying you need to play abroad to improve, because it's always good to keep kind of sport local here to Gibraltar. But at the same time, I mean, the experience you get from playing abroad, and I mean, the coaching as well. I'm studying at Loughborough University and the coaches there have been fantastic. And not only in terms of skills, but the habits, the healthy attitudes you end up developing there as an athlete, you then bring back and you integrate it into the team in a really healthy way that not only helps you as an individual, but other people will follow, especially the younger girls coming up. And for me, the most important factor is definitely commitment, because you hear a lot about the men's squad and how they travel, but I think the women's squad have had to sacrifice so much without many people knowing. I think of myself, for example, and I've had to leave uni to one side, catch a plane, miss lectures, miss tutorials, miss deadlines. I've had to sit exams in the hotel. But I think that this is what makes us different and makes us unique, because we're not going because we're getting paid we're going because we love football and this is what we're willing to do. We're willing to sacrifice whatever we have in our lives, drop it all and catch a plane and go and play what we love and represent our country. So this intrinsic motivation that the women's squad has is something that's completely unique, and I'm proud to be part of it. So looking at my personal commitment, I've been playing with the Loughborough football and futsal team. So I'm obviously studying psychology there at the moment, which is quite an intense course. But, you know, being able to play high levels of football and futsal is honestly a dream for me, and I'm loving every moment. But at the same time, there is challenges. I mean, if I explain to you one of my regular days, I'd wake up at 6 in the morning, go train futsal, an hour and a half till 8:30ish, run back for a lecture at 9, finish lectures at 6 in the afternoon, and then have training again for football till 8:30, maybe go and call with my family, have dinner, and study till 3 in the morning. So this is something that actually, I mean, I'd do it every day. I'd end up studying till 2 because of everything I'd have throughout, but it's something, once again, that I'm willing to do, and I enjoy it. I mean, I wish this could carry on forever at Loughborough, but I think that football doesn't last forever. Your studies do. So at the same time, I'm trying to sacrifice as much as I can for football, because that's what I love doing and that's my main dream. With commitment, this year I applied to Ultimate Goal Season 2 on BT Sports, and I actually got recommended by a friend. And at the time, I mean, I was like, oh, I'll just apply. And I didn't know that I'd actually get picked. And I mean, living with 26 players from all around the world, ex-England internationals, people, D1 athletes, and it was like, why am I here? Almost like, but it gave me a chance to tell my story from Gibraltar, and it put Gibraltar on the map, and I couldn't be more proud for that, to kind of show what I've sacrificed, but also what I've learned throughout as well, coming back from this experience. But it wasn't this easy. Previously, I've had like different trials with Twente and Everton, and honestly, in my head, I feel like I've failed throughout these opportunities. I feel like something wasn't there and something was missing. I remember almost feeling like it was a countdown for the tournament to end, really, like the trials. I just wanted it to be over, and that's not like me, to be honest, because I've always loved football, and I was like, why am I playing so well in Gibraltar, but the moment I leave, I crumble? So that was the main questions, but there was an easy fix. Well, I say easy, but when I went to the program, there was this sports psychologist that taught me something I remember for the rest of my life. But as I went to the program, she got everyone, before actually playing football, she sat us all down and she said, write your biggest fear on a piece of paper. And to me, this was instant. And my fear was that I was not good enough. And it's always been that when I've played abroad. And so I wrote it down, I folded it, and everyone ended up folding their fears and putting it in the floor as well. And to my surprise, as the psychologist was reading them all out, they all had the same message that they weren't good enough. And it was like, why are you not good enough if you used to play for England? Why are you thinking that? And in that moment, I actually stepped back and I kind of said, no matter who's beside me, no matter who I'm competing against, they're human. These doubts are normal. What's important is how you react to these doubts, how you respond to them. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes you into a good player. Because it's how you respond to these environments of out of your comfort zone that then turns you into a good player, to a great one, where you're able to succeed out of your comfort zone. And I actually think that's why many of the footballers that go abroad from Gibraltar fail, because they prepare physically, they prepare in terms of skills, abilities, but then they fail to develop the mental resilience to keep going and cope when you're in times that maybe you're not in your comfort zone and you're having a hard time. But in that program, you're living with 26 people that you've never met before, and I needed that mental resilience that this psychologist kind of taught me to develop. And honestly, if I look at my success after this program, I managed to make it to the last 16, made it to the starting 11 against West Ham, scored a goal against West Ham, managed to get an agent who's helping me along the way to reach my dream, scored a goal and got player of the match in a BT futsal match of Tier 1 futsal, and made history with the Gibraltar national squad. So, as a whole, I think that the experience of BT, I can learn as much as I want with futsal, but in terms of actually developing mentally, I think that's been one of the key things that I've learned, because now everyone focuses on the whole, on your goal at the end, but you don't focus on the steps you need to take to actually reach your goal. And I think one key thing that I've learned is taking those small steps rather than the big ones, because at the end of the day, as you take those small steps, you're one step closer to your goal. And before you know it, when you look back, you'll see all the way that you've come and the little you need to actually reach it. Because the longer strides you take, the more tired you become, and the more easily it is to give up. But those smaller steps are what make you into the great player that you can become. And obviously, lastly, mentally as well, we're not made to deal with negativity. So if I say now, don't think of an elephant, I can guarantee that all of you have thought of an elephant. We're literally the opposite to negativity. But it's like how I've said before, it's how we deal with these intruding thoughts. One of my biggest fears at the time was not being good enough, but in the match, how do you deal with these irrational thoughts that enter your head almost? I study psychology as well, so I've tried to apply that as well. And being a footballer, it's so difficult to be in that moment of high anxiety and high kind of arousal, and you have these thoughts, and it's like, what thoughts do you believe? What thoughts are reality? So it's kind of acknowledging these irrational thoughts, saying, okay, thank you for letting me know. Put it to a side and focus on what's in front of you. Focus on what your goal is and what reality is at the time. That's important, in my opinion. So obviously, to end on that, I just wanted to say that don't be scared to dream big and fight for your goal, because that's what I've been doing throughout my life with football. It hasn't been as easy as everyone thinks and as maybe a boy would have had it. But I think as a girl and now as a role model, I encourage everyone to strive for the best and strive for your goal no matter what you do in life. So thank you for listening.